Sometimes you want to be able to have a very textural, antique looking finish to a piece of furniture, cabinetry, an urn, or maybe an accessory. That's a great opportunity for you to use my product, Cracked Patina. Think of a cracked patina as a process where it's like an Oreo cookie. It's always going to have to be sandwiched in between two colors. So what I did is I took my one-step paint in Ballet White. That's acting as my base coat. Now, secondly, I'm going to add my Oreo cookie center of cracked patina. So on top of the cracked patina, after it's dried, I'm going to be applying Luxe Gray, and then I'm going to pull it away so you can see the Ballet White underneath. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to take the cracked patina and you're going to add about 15% water, just to thin it just a little bit. I'm going to stir it up. Offload. And then after your Ballet White that you've applied, just one coat has dried, you're going to apply this in the same manner that you did your paint, painting in the direction that would be the grain. Now what's really important with this is I want you to paint in long, clean strokes. You don't want to put this on in cross-hatching because the same direction that you apply the cracked patina is going to be the direction of your crack when you lay the paint on top of it. So you want to go around the entire surface, make sure you don't have any holidays. So where you don't apply the cracked patina, you're not going to have any cracking. So you want to make sure that you don't get it too heavy, but that you have complete 100% coverage. If you get any areas that are dripping or they puddle up like this right here, just make sure that you go back in with your brush, thin it out, continuing to go the same direction, because you don't want any puddles or drips. That's not desirable at all. But you'll notice I will kind of go back in and continue to feather, but I'm working very quickly. If you're working on a piece of furniture, normally I'll take out the drawers. I'll work on the drawers one at a time, or the doors, or the top, or the sides. And I normally like to lay it on its side when I'm going to work on a side and the top, exactly like this on a flat surface. So once you've got the cracked patina applied everywhere, we're going to allow this to dry for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then we're ready to apply our Luxe Gray. All right, so my cracked patina has dried. I'm going to need my Luxe Gray, which is going to be my top coat, and 2 clean chip brushes that I've not used for anything else. In this instance, I prefer that you use a chip brush and not a synthetic brush. You're going to have more success. So make sure that you shake up your Luxe Gray very well. Now, this is dry to the touch. It's not gummy at all. And I do always have to come back on top of the cracked patina with the one-step paint. I cannot leave it by itself. So the first brush that I'm going to need, I'm going to load up my Luxe Gray. Make sure you offload. You don't want to have too much paint. Now, be careful because you've got to paint in the same direction as you painted the cracked patina, but you don't want to put too much paint on, because if you go on too heavy at first, then it's going to have a tendency to be too large of a crack and you're not going to be as happy. So I'm laying this on. I'm making sure that I've got enough paint loaded up, because also when I come back to paint this and I start to pull it, it's going to be drying on me really quickly. Let's get real close. Can you already see how that's starting to dry? The faster it dries and the faster it starts cracking. I've really got to be careful with how I'm putting my paint on. I can't keep brushing over it. Basically, I can go to 2 passes and that's it. Look how already how I'm going into that area there, how it's starting to crack and lift it. That's called double processing. So I'm going to go in here into the center. I'm working very quickly. I can only hit it like twice. You want to make sure too that you don't have too much paint on your brush, because it's really going to make it difficult for you later in trying to pull it. As it's starting to dry, you're going to notice something. It's going to go to this matte finish. That's part of the beauty of working with a chalk-based paint. So as it's wet, it has a sheen to it, but as it dries, it's going to go matte. And as it starts to go matte, I want you to take your clean chip brush, You're gonna lay it on its side, and look how my hand is holding around this brush like this. Not like I would normally paint, but your hand's gonna have to be over it, because I want you to take the bristle brush, lay it down horizontally, put it into the paint, and then start to agitate it. Look at that. See how that's starting to lift that paint? So a lot of people, they'll say, well, why with the cracked patina, what's the point of it? Now you're seeing it's allowing you to be able to manipulate two paint colors, and look how this is turned into a negative tool. When you set it down here onto this finish and you're pulling it away, it's a negative tool. When you're painting it on this way, it's a positive tool. So the way we're doing this is we're pulling it away instead of sandpaper, when a lot of people will use sandpaper to manipulate a piece to make it look like it's been aged and that paint has begun to pop up. So see how I'm laying it down on its side? I'm not dragging it too quickly. And you have to work fairly quickly because it's gonna start to dry on you and you can't manipulate it. So I need to get into my center real quickly. Look how I'm jumping around too. I'm not going in lines like I would be painting. See how easy that is? Now you see the beauty of being able to work with the cracked patina, and also notice how it's very monochromatic, how we've worked with the ballet white and the luxe gray. They complement one another, and it's better to start lighter and go darker. You don't want to start with dark colors first and go lighter, because it'll have a tendency to look like malted milk balls. Now, here's my second tool. I've got dry, clean hands, and I can go back in and I'm gonna press into this wet paint, and I'm gonna start to lift it. And that allows me to be able to manipulate it where I'm going in for now a composition. So when you think about a lot of people when they're working on a piece of furniture and they're just going at it with a sander and even hand sanding or an electric sander, it looks very contrived to try to make that paint look like it's come off. I love doing the cracked patina like this because it makes it look so much more authentic. The cool thing about it is I could come back if I wanted to say put a blue on top of this, or even go with a darker gray. Then I'm gonna put on another coat of cracked patina after this is dry, and then put the lighter gray on top of that and do the same thing and pull it. So you'll see the ballet white, the luxe gray, and the darker gray, and it's gonna look so authentic. I'm starting to love this. I've gotta let this dry. I'm gonna come back, lightly sand it, because when you pull this paint, it's gonna have a tendency to feel really rough. And I know a lot of people will say, I thought we didn't sand the one step. We don't have to make it adhere, but to be able to manipulate a process like this and make it look old, you want to, because a piece that's gonna look old and authentic is gonna have a really smooth finish to the touch. So make sure with your cracked patina projects, you're always going to need to seal them, either with a light wax, light and dark wax, or with your matte sealer. So the first thing I'm gonna do on this is I'm gonna use my light antique wax. Using a clean chip brush, make sure you load it up. I'm gonna use just a little bit this time. As a rule, I'll offload it, but I'm going very light this time. Work your way all the way around the door. Let this come to tack after about 10 or 15 minutes. You don't want to apply the dark wax when it's still greasy or wet, so you want to make sure that you load this up. I do want to offload my dark wax. That way I've got very little dark wax on here. See how little dark wax I have on this cardboard? So it's going to get dirty or aged around the edges, so let's start there first. So on the edge of this piece, look how I'm just going to dry brush just a little bit. Please don't overdo your dark wax. You do not want it to go everywhere, just around on the edges. I'm gonna do a little bit of this, so I want you to see how different it can look. If you like the look of this cracked patina, pulling it with the ballet white and the luxe gray, just put a little bit of clear wax on it, but I like coming back and adding just a little bit of age that way. Look at the difference between this side with just the light antique wax and this with just a little bit of dark wax. It's a major transformation. I'm gonna load my brush up just a little bit more. I'm focusing on the outer edge and this inner edge. Don't put the dark wax everywhere. It's going to change the color and it's make your piece look almost taupe. I'm going to allow this to probably dry about 20 or 30 minutes and then come back and buff it to a really pretty soft sheen with a lint-free rag. So I hope you experiment with using this cracked patina on urns, corbels, all kinds of decorative accessories, even lamps, because remember you can use the one-step paint even on metal. So now it's your turn to enjoy the racking.